Professor Taylor here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and create a MySQL instance for AWS. This MySQL instance is the actual database that's going to connect to our EC2 web server that we created earlier. But this video just shows how to create that database instance for MySQL. So on the AWS Console home screen, look for the database group. In the database group, you're going to click on RDS. Once that window opens, if you haven't really been using it yet, you'll probably get this kind of like, hey, get started, let's do this thing message. And so we're going to go ahead and click that Get Started Now button. And here we have an option of picking from the different types of databases that can be used within AWS within the RDS group. And I also want to make sure I'm doing the free version. So I'm going to go ahead and click on only enable the free tier RDS version. And I'm going to click on MySQL at the top to make sure the correct database is selected. And then once I do that, I'm going to click next. So once I click next, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down just to make sure that within the details is reminding me and letting me know for sure I'm using the free tier. So here it says the free tier, and it gives you some bit of information that it has to be a 2T micro instance. It only has so much storage, and it just lets you know that this is the free version. So I'm going to leave the free version default settings there for this particular example. So the license model, engine version, instance class, all just stays as default, as well as the storage. Here in the settings, it asks for a DB instance identifier, so you have to have a unique name for it. And then you also are going to have to create a master username and password so that you can make changes to your database when and how you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and create the name of the database. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a master name and password and confirm that password and hit next. Once I do that, I'll meet you all at the next screen. Okay, so I put my information in there. I'm hitting next. And it should take us to the next page for the configuration settings. In this section, we would have to set up the security groups if necessary. So I have the default VPC security group here listed. I'm going to just go ahead and go with that one. And I'm going to do the default subnet as well. You can create a new VPC if you want to, but I really don't need to do that at this particular point in time, so I'm not. So we're going to just go ahead and make sure that our settings are correct for our ports and for our database options. So everything for network and security, I'm just leaving it as default. So the network and security group, it has the VPC set to default. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave the default for the subnet group, but I am going to change the public accessibility. Because for this particular exercise, we want to be able to connect it to a Java program and be able to have it call out from anywhere. So we're going to go ahead and set that. We're going to click on the availability zone. I'm going to do US East 1D because I want the availability zone to be the same as the availability zone for the instance that we created. And for VPC security groups, I'm going to go ahead and leave it with I can choose existing group, go with the default, and so I'm going to do that. So for the VPC security group, I'm going to select choose existing VPC security groups, go with default, and it just has the default one selected. I'm fine with that. So we're going to go ahead and name our database. Just something random. So we're going to give the database a name. We want to make sure the database is reading out to port 3306. That's good. Let's see. And make sure it's TCP. Let's see. DB parameter groups, we're going to go ahead and leave that as a default. Option groups, leave that as default as well. We're not going to do an authentication right now, but we could do that, but we're not going to do it at this particular point for this particular exercise. Moving down to encryption, because we're using the free version, it's not going to allow us to do it. So for backups, yeah, we don't really have to worry about a backup for that. So I'm just going to leave it as is. And monitoring, I'm going to leave that as is as well. So AWS allows for you to do a lot of fun stuff, and a lot of services are automated, where back in the day DBAs would have to do all these things manually, like being able to access and view logs. So you can select which ones you want to be able to have immediate access to within CloudWatch, so that you can see what's going on within your database. I really don't need that for this particular exercise, so I'm going to just go ahead and leave everything as a default, and then do launch the database version. So now it's telling me there's something wrong, and I need to understand what that is. So I got a couple errors when it came to my subnet and using default. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new VPC, and then see if we can correct that by creating a new DB subnet group. I'm going to go ahead and still give it public accessibility, put it back to US East 1. Okay, we can go from there. We have our database name, we have our port. So all that should be fine. We're leaving that as default as we did last time. And we're going to try this again. Launch DB instance. Let's see if it works this time around. And so the great thing about AWS, you can keep trying something until you keep breaking it, or it keeps giving you errors, and then you figure out how to do it right. There's a wealth of information online, but AWS has a whole educate platform that's pretty cool for students and faculty to really learn how to use it. So it's a great way to learn this technology. So we have our database created. The DB instance is being created now, and it says it's going to take a few minutes. So once it comes up, we will see what that looks like. Okay, it takes a while for that database instance to officially be created. So I went back to the RDS main page by just clicking on the word RDS, and it takes me to the dashboard for it. And I click under resources, and I go to DB instance, which will show me all of my database instances that I have. So it shows me the one that I just created, and the status says creating. So I'm waiting for that to fully say that it's ready. Okay, so our MySQL database instance is officially created, and the status says available. So we are all good to go. We have our instance, database instance created. So now we can go into MySQL using MySQL Workbench to make all the required connections. So just to take a quick look, under DB under DB instance, click on your instance name, and it should allow you to see information about that particular database instance. Lets you know which database it is under engine, the class of the database, the availability, and any maintenance or notices that are important for you to know. So there you go. We have successfully set up our database.